How would you tell the difference between what is alive and what is not? By their movement, of course. Look at that dog, it's running. Look at this cow, it's chewing grass. All these people are walking in the street. We know that these are living beings. What if the dog or the cow or the man were asleep? We would still think that they are alive. But how do we know that? We see them breathing. And that's how we know that they are alive. What about plants? Are they alive? Yes, because we see them grow over a period of time. We see flowers blooming, fruit bearing from the trees, etc. In other words, we tend to think of some sort of movement, either growth-related or not, as the common evidence of being alive. What about plants that is not visibly growing? Is it alive? And what about some animals that can breathe without visible movement? So, you can see that using visible movement for defining characteristics of life is not enough. Small-scale movements, like the movement of molecules, are invisible to the naked eye. But these movements are very necessary for life. So you can see that using visible movement for defining characteristics of life is not enough. Small-scale movements like the movement of molecules are invisible to the naked eye. But movements are very necessary for life. Now, you might ask why these movements are important for life. We have learned in earlier classes that living organisms are very well-organized structures. They can have tissues, tissues have cells, cells have smaller components in them, and so on. Because of the effects of the environment, this organized, ordered nature of living structure is very likely to keep breaking down over time. If order breaks down, the organism will no longer be alive. So, living creatures must keep repairing and maintain their structures. Since all these structures are made up of molecules, they must move molecules around all the time. For this maintenance process to happen, there are some life processes that each organism undergoes throughout its lifetime. Let us take a look at this life process. What are life processes? Take a look at this kid. Is the maintenance process in his body taking place? And what about this baby? The maintenance function in any living organism must go on even when they are not doing anything in particular. The processes which together perform this maintenance job are known as life processes. Since these maintenance processes are needed to prevent damage and breakdown, energy is needed for them. This energy in the living organisms comes from outside of the body. For example, the food we human beings and animals eat. Plants make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. In order for this ingestion of energy to take place, there must be a process to transfer a source of energy from outside the body of the organism to the inside, a process we commonly call nutrition. If the body of the organism is to grow, then additional raw materials will be needed from outside. The outside sources of energy could be quite varied since the environment is not under the control of the individual organisms. These sources of energy, therefore, need to be broken down or built up in the body and must be finally converted to a uniform source of energy that can be used for the various molecular movements needed for maintaining living structures. For this, a series of chemical reactions in the body are necessary. Oxidizing-reducing reactions are some of the most chemical means to break down molecules. For this, many organisms use oxygen sourced from outside the body. The process of acquiring oxygen from outside the body and to use it in the process of breaking down of food sources for cellular needs is what we call respiration. Now, since the food and oxygen are now taken up at one place in the body of the organisms, this situation creates a need for a transportation system for carrying food and oxygen from one place to another and eventually to all parts of the body. When chemical reaction use the carbon source and the oxygen for energy generation, they create byproducts that are not only useless for the cells of the body but could even be harmful. These waste byproducts are therefore needed to be removed from the body and discarded outside by the process called excretion. So far, we have learned about the different life processes that a living organism generally undergoes through. What criteria do we use to decide whether something is alive? What are outside raw materials used for by an organism? What processes would you consider essential for maintaining life?